Hey everyone, back on Penn's Rapid Reaction. I'm Matt Gajtka. It's been a while. Let's get reacquainted as we talk about a thriller in Pittsburgh tonight. The Penguins extend their winning streak just barely. Didn't exactly feel like they earned this one, but hey, it's 2 points in the end. And the Penguins have now won 4 in a row, a season high. They defeat the defending Stanley Cup champions despite blowing a 3-goal third period lead. They've been specialists in blowing the 2-goal lead this year, but 3 goals was a new frontier, I think, and they had gone 5 games without squandering a multi-goal lead, which I think was a record for this season. It has been some kind of a ride this year, and well, at least we do have the roller coaster going up the hill at the moment as the Penguins win it 5-4 on a Brian Rust snipe in overtime. I thought Marcus Pettersson's goal early in the third was going to put a nice capper on this one. The Penguins were drastically outshot and outchanced throughout, but Owen Pickering squeezed one through. Spencer Knight not very strong for the Cats in goal. It was a break to not see Sergei Bobrovsky this evening, and so the Penguins do take advantage of that. They score 5 times on 16 shots on target. That's what, about 30-some%, a little less than 33%, if I can do the math quickly in my head. That's basically what the average NBA team shoots from 3 points, and the Penguins did it in a hockey game. So hey, however they want to pull it off is totally fine with us, right? Because it makes things a little bit more interesting. As like I said, it already was a season-long win streak. In fact, at 3 games, that tells you how badly things have gone so far this year. But now it's 4 games, and now they have a chance to go into New York, Madison Square Garden on Friday, and potentially keep a struggling Rangers team down. After that, they've got Toronto and Colorado at home. Those will be much tougher. But getting by the Panthers, that was the one game out of the 4 here, right after the Thanksgiving holiday, that looked like it was going to be pretty tough to win, especially with the Panthers hot. And the Panthers turned it on. They flipped the switch in the third period, and the Penguins were fortunate to hang on in the final 8 minutes to at least get it to overtime. I was actually happy with a point, but I'm even more happy with the 2 points. Remember, you can submit your comments, your concerns, your questions about the small picture tonight or the big picture, what the Penguins are up to in terms of where they're going on the competitive arc of this franchise. I think in a lot of ways we're conflicted on where the Penguins are going at the moment, but hey, that's okay. Just gives us more things to debate. I don't have an issue with that, certainly, as we have gotten to maybe about the third poll. I don't know what you even call that. The 1/3 of the way through the season. There is no easy, tidy thing like quarter pole. There's no third pole in horse racing. I don't think there is. But anyway, the Penguins now, their updated record on the season after the win tonight, 11, 12, and 4, almost back to fake 500, which in the NHL, they will say that's 500 if you're 12, 12, and 4, for instance, if the Penguins do win on Friday. I think we all know that's not quite the case with the overtime losses put in a separate category. That always feels a little weird, but hey, the Pens are out of the basement. They jumped ahead of the Blue Jackets, who are playing tonight in Calgary, and the Islanders, who lost tonight in overtime to Montreal. And with one more victory, the Penguins could actually vault themselves into a playoff spot. Looking at it right now, they are 1 point behind the Rangers and the Flyers, tied for the 8th and final spot in the East. So there's a long way to go in this season. And I feel that a lot of folks were writing this season off. And I understand the Penguins aren't a cup contender, but if you're just talking about making it fun down the stretch here into the final 20 games like it was last year with the Penguins rallying, and really they were well out of it prior to the final 20 games before they got back going and got on their collective horse and almost made it to the postseason against the odds. I just I feel if they're not going to finish all the way near the bottom of the standings, then they might as well give us a thrill, right? Or at least a couple. Now, there are some who would say, why even try? Because you want to get those high draft picks, and the Penguins are trying to thread that needle. So I suppose we could talk about that if you want to. I'd also love to talk about tonight's game because there were plenty of good things the Penguins did, but at the same time, we can nitpick a lot of things in their game too, and also consider that they're playing a team that just blew out the Carolina Hurricanes, a strong team in their own right, by a 6-0 score. Actually, the Panthers had just beaten the Hurricanes back-to-back soundly in regulation time. And this Panthers team has felt like, I've watched them a few times this year, they're not totally engaged with the season just yet. It's a disease, if I may put it so strongly that afflicts a lot of Stanley Cup champions. We saw it in Pittsburgh in 2016-17. We saw it especially in 2017-18 as they waited until very late to try to kick the intensity up. And I think as it turned out that time around, too late. But of course, going for 3 cups in a row is quite the high expectation. The Panthers are going for 2 in a row, and you saw it there in the third. Well, you saw it, honestly, at moments throughout the game where they could just lean on the Penguins and keep them hemmed in, and it's just the way the Panthers play. They're suffocating when they're playing their brand of hockey, which is high effort, in your face, borderline dirty at times, but they make it work for them. They have the right mix of players to make it work, guys who play better when they're emotionally engaged, like Matthew Tkachuk, like Sam Bennett, both of whom were pretty good tonight. Even going down the list, Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Reinhart, they've proven to be big-time playoff performers too. So these are guys who are at their best when they can elevate the stakes, whether it's real elevated stakes or in the case of this game, they get behind 4-1 and they can motivate themselves to try to at least make it a game. And they certainly did. Let's look at some of your comments here, and a reminder that you can support Pittsburgh Hockey Now by sending stars if you're watching us on Facebook. At the moment, stars help us maintain the most and best hockey content. I don't know if you noticed, but we have Shelley Anderson and Dave Molinari back writing on the website on Pittsburgh Hockey Now, along the Major Domo, Dan Kingerski. Justin Carey says 4 in a row. Yes, to channel Lou Brown of Major League fame. That is a winning streak. It has been done before. I think he was referring to 3 wins in a row, but 4. That's also quite the accomplishment for this Penguin squad. Uncle Deebs says we don't win without Jari's play. He was unreal. I loved his sequence of saves. Late in the second period, the Penguins up 3-1. I forget who it was, turned over the puck in the slot. And then Evan Rodriguez had a great chance, and Barkov followed up with a rebound on the backhand, and Jari stopped both. Probably the best sequence of saves for Jari I've seen in quite some time. And he also played well in Boston in the 2-1 win on Black Friday. So the Penguins getting better goaltending lately. And Jari is looking more like the guy who has at least put up good regular season numbers in his career, if not necessarily in the postseason and down the stretch in some high leverage situations. K-Man says more on the goaltending. Jari let in 4, but was also bombarded tonight. Yeah, the shot totals, let's get those to you because it is a relevant number. 41-16, the Panthers outshot the Penguins in shots on goal. Shot attempts wasn't much better. It was 80-46. That's about 2/3, if you can't do the math in your head there, and I couldn't. 2/3 of the shot attempts for the Panthers in all situations. At 5-on-5, it was a little bit worse. It was actually more than 2/3 that the Panthers had against the Penguins. High danger scoring chances, as adjudged by Natural Stat Trick, 19-9 in favor of Florida. Again, that's more than 2/3 of those. And expected goals, exactly 2/3 of the expected goals in all situations. The Panthers, quote unquote, should have had 3.75 goals, and the Penguins should have had 1.88. And that honestly sounds a little bit inflated to me. I'm not sure I saw that many scoring chances for the Pens. The Marcus Pettersson goal was a brilliant goal, and he got to the lip of the crease, so I suppose that one's going to be a pretty high percentage shot in the end. But you don't expect Marcus Pettersson to pull that move. That's the goal of the night for me, certainly. But Chris Letang scoring from darn near the corner against an unwitting Spencer Knight. Like I said, I didn't think Spencer Knight was very good tonight. And that third goal by Letang is a pretty good example of that. The Malkin goal, no fault of Knight's. That was an excellent three-way passing play from that line. And in particular, Philip Tomasino, who earned the primary assist. How about that touch pass in the middle of the ice? That's highly skilled stuff. And you can see why he was a highly regarded prospect in the Predators system for a while. But also, as Dan Kingerski pointed out on X during the third period, that Sam Bennett goal, that probably should have been broken up a couple of times by Tomasino. So he giveth and he taketh away in that situation. But it's nice to see in the top 6 some potential for above average playmaking and scoring from Tomasino. So that's one of those bright spots. Also bright spots, the Penguins are starting to get more to the high traffic areas. I think Michael Bunting is leading that charge, and that's the way he has to play to be effective. Bunting had the screen on Owen Pickering's screen shot in the first period, the one that got through and gave Pickering his first NHL goal. So that takes a load off him. Not that he's a big goal scoring guy, but you always want to get one on the board, right? Feel like you belong a little bit more at the NHL level, and it certainly looks like that Owen Pickering does. So another positive for the Penguins is the development of Owen Pickering getting an extended run here as Ryan Graves continues to ride the pine. That's 4 games out for Graves and 4 wins in a row for the Penguins. Justin Carey says, I don't think they turned it on. They were outplaying us from the beginning of the game. Well, I do think they added a little bit more intensity. I will disagree with you there, but we could just be picking nits, trying to be a little too fine in our definition of what turning it on means. Yeah, Florida was good throughout, and they were the better team throughout. Maybe a short span for the Penguins early in the third period, late in the second period. I actually liked the Penguins game late in the second period, protecting that 3-1 lead. They strung several shifts together, got pucks to the goal, created some chaos, and just kept the Panthers away from the puck. But that was the oasis in the desert, so to speak, tonight. And the Penguins' third and fourth goals against, the third goal especially, another couple of mistakes from Erik Karlsson, and then everyone starts standing around puck watching, as Carey talks about. Ethan Connolly, a boosting of trade value this game. Yes, are you talking about Tristan Jarry perhaps, or Marcus Pettersson? Sure, although if you're acquiring Marcus Pettersson, you better not be expecting that kind of a goal on a nightly basis or a monthly basis even, because that's the nicest move I've ever seen him make, I think, in the offensive end. But you'll take it when you can get it, and it felt like a key goal at the time. Probably should have put it away, but the Penguins were on their heels for most of the night, and especially in that 8 or 9 minute stretch. That's all it took Florida to tie it. We went from 4-1 to 4-4, and it was still 8 minutes to go in regulation. So that was rather mind-boggling. And if you would have bet me that it was more likely the Panthers were going to win by multiple goals than the Penguins winning that game, I would have probably said you were astute in your observation, because it was an avalanche of offense from Florida. They got the power play goal, the tip from Matthew Tkachuk, kind of borderline maybe, but I think it was a good move not to challenge it for the Penguins. As Phil Bourque noted on the broadcast on the TV side, when the deflection doesn't go in the net, the standard for a high stick is the shoulder, and it looked like that was right at shoulder height for Matthew Tkachuk, or at the least, I think that would have been impossible for the league to overturn that if the Penguins did issue the coach's challenge. Now, if the deflected shot goes directly into the net, then the standard is the crossbar, and I thought Tkachuk's stick and the puck were both above the crossbar when he tipped it. So that was one of those odd little, loopholes in the rule book in that situation. You don't see that come up very often, that a player tips a shot off the post and then puts the rebound in, and there's some kind of a questionable touch on it. So a lot going on that play, but the Penguins penalty kill was chasing around as well in that situation. Chicken a la King makes a good point. Pickering is going to make trading Pettersson less painful. It does feel like that would be the ceiling perhaps for Owen Pickering, is a pretty solid middle pairing, left-handed shot, defensive defenseman, whatever that means in the modern NHL. You can't be a Rob Scuderi anymore and hang in the league. But Pickering has demonstrated a 200-foot game, I would say. He's not necessarily up in every rush, but I think he's got good instincts and good long reach, right? And as they talked about tonight on the broadcast as well, putting on some weight. Hopefully it's good weight, right? You don't want to just put on weight. This isn't heavyweight wrestling. This is the NHL. So you got to be able to move, and I want to make sure that Pickering maintains his mobility. But in the end, you like that he is strong enough to succeed at the NHL level, at least so far. It's very early goings for him, but certainly a mark on the plus side of the ledger this evening and throughout the past several weeks. IR3K says, gotta like the Pens' resilience. Also been noticing Karlsson's play has been really good. Wonder if it has anything to do with the international tourney coming up. And you'll recall the Swedish general manager, was it Johan Garpenlöf? I think it was an old player from the 90s, a guy that rang a bell for me. That was when I was coming of age as a hockey fan in the late 90s. But neither here nor there. The Swedish GM for the upcoming Four Nations face-off said that he might not take Erik Karlsson, or that they would not have him on the list. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but Karlsson has looked to me to be a player earlier this season who was lacking motivation when it came to the details of his game. And I just gave you an example of him coughing up a goal, but I think he has played harder and better in his own end lately, and also in the neutral zone and also in the offensive zone, not taking unnecessary chances. There was a moment late in the third, in fact, that I marked down in my notes. Carlson could have easily pinched up. It was a 50-50 puck or close to it near the offensive blue line. He decided to back off. The Panthers had a routine 2-on-2. They dumped it in. The Penguins got it back. And then, see, in that situation, Carlson doesn't force it, and he ends up with the puck on his stick about 5 to 10 seconds later because the opposing team realizes they can't make anything happen off the rush. So it's not like you're conceding necessarily. If you're Carlson, if you play less aggressively in the neutral zone, and if you're not pinching willy-nilly, if you step back, he's such a good skater. He can retrieve pucks first. He can get to them and make that good first breakout pass. And he had a couple of chances in overtime, honestly, before Brian Rust called his own number, smartly, I might add, to go top shelf on Spencer Knight and win that game. But Carlson involved in a couple of overtime plays as well. Uncle Deeb's talking about Letang's play. A full 360. I think you mean 180. 360 would take us right back to where they were. I don't know if I'd say a full turnaround. Letang was caught chasing, in fact, on that power play goal by Gajtka that tied the score. Just too much puck chasing as the Penguins were desperate for a clear. I get that, but you got to get there if you're all going to push up like Letang was, and that left Gajtka unmolested in front of the net, and he did what he does best in front of the net. But yeah, I would say a tick and play upward from both guys, and the Penguins aren't going to go anywhere if those guys are continuing to play poorly. So it's pretty much got to happen. Angela says she agrees with IR. The team demonstrated some resilience. Yes, they did not collapse in the final 8 minutes. In fact, the Panthers had a couple of decent scoring chances, but so did the Pens. The Malkin line actually was pretty good late in the third period. They got 2 points against a very good, very aggressive team. Take the points and run. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. And like I said, the Penguins on the cusp of the playoff field with a long way to go in this season at 11, 12, and 4. That puts them 27 games in. So, yeah, right around a third of the way into the 82-game season. And the schedule hasn't been too tough for them lately. They had 2 days off, between games against the Flames, the 6-2 win Saturday and tonight. And they'll have 2 more days off between Florida and the trip to New York. And it's a short trip to New York. Then they come back. It's a back-to-back situation, but a short flight, obviously, back to Pittsburgh to play Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada Saturday. And then 2 more days off before they play Colorado at home. So there you go. An older team gets some rest and getting some young energy in the form of guys like Pickering and Philip Tomasino. So there are some things ticking in their direction. They are slowly turning this ship around. And you go back to when they started the season at 3-2 until they started this win streak. They were 4-10-4, excuse me. So they won 4 of their next, 28 games. 4 of their next 18 games. Wasn't that bad. 4 of the next 18 games before now they have reeled off 4 in a row. So I'd say that's about as bad as you can expect from this roster. This roster, as we kept saying, is not this bad, but they were playing that badly for a long time and even not getting the help from the goaltending. And the goaltending has been better lately, too. Nedeljkovic, solid against Calgary. Jare, not bad against Vancouver the night before Thanksgiving. Want to throw that one in, too. The Canucks had a late push. We're still seeing these leads be somewhat tenuous. It was nice to see one routine win this season. The game against Calgary, I think I would classify as their only routine win of the year, where it's comfortable all the way through the third period. And you could say they scored 2 in a row, the Flames did, but it was already 5-0 at that point. This one was never going to be comfortable. The Panthers were not going to allow that, even when it was 4-1. It seemed like I didn't think they were going to quit. And, well, they clearly did not quit because they pushed the Penguins all the way to the wire and then some. But the Pens win it in overtime. Ethan Connolly goes bigger picture here. What do you think about the Kirby Dach and Nils Höglander rumors? Höglander is interesting because we had a lot of us in the Penguins blogosphere, the social media chatter, whatever you want to call it, the bubble that chats about the Penguins regularly online. The thought had been that maybe Marcus Pettersson could be a fit with the Vancouver Canucks, talking about Höglander here. But he's a player who seems like more of the Philip Tomasino type, where his value is a bit low. He's slumping, and he's under contract in the case of Höglander for a couple of years at least, I believe. Tomasino is going to be a restricted free agent, so a little different in that regard, but a slightly distressed but still young asset in Höglander. I don't feel like that would be a match for Pettersson. I would think they would get back more like a collection of prospects or draft picks for a Pettersson, but it could be Höglander's part of that deal. I don't know, to maybe even out the salary in the transaction. Hard to say, but I do know that Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin have worked with Kyle Dubas in the past, and perhaps they can make something work again. I wouldn't mind taking him on, even with the term on the contract, because we have seen Höglander. What was it last year? He had more than 20 even strength goals. There aren't many guys in the NHL who can put up those numbers, even 1 year. So the fact that he's still young, I don't mind that. Kirby Dach has been, I think, more of a disappointment for me, but also right in that vein of guys that it would be worth taking a chance on at this stage of the rebuild or the retool, whatever you want to call it, because they can still provide some punch theoretically right away, even though their best years might still be 2 or 3 years down the road, and you might not even get their better years if they would move on. IR 3K says, I think Bunting should return to power play 1. I wouldn't mind that either. He's been pretty good in the bumper. Yeah, I was just going to say that. And you did mention that. I didn't even finish reading your comment. We were on the same page. He really made a difference at the end of last year. And he contributed a couple of times to power play goals with the second unit against the Flames on Saturday. And Bunting's the kind of guy who I think struggles to create with the puck on his stick at 5-on-5. He's just not that skilled, frankly speaking, with the puck on his stick. But when he has a little bit of space, then he can make some plays happen. I think he's a smart player. I think he's a tenacious player. When he's fighting for room, when he's, like I said previously about some of the Panthers guys, when he is physically and mentally engaged, emotionally engaged in the game, Bunting is at his best. And that puts him automatically, if he's in the bumper, in a high traffic spot where he has the chance to scan the ice, to think about what he's going to do with the puck when he gets it. You can script some things out, obviously, on the power play a little bit more. So whether it be bumper or even in front of the net, if you have a guy who's drifting between those two spots, I think the Penguins could do a lot worse than Michael Bunting in that position. Although they have had some success with Raquel popping out. Honestly, Raquel could have easily had a goal, but Aaron Ekblad made a sliding block out of nowhere to deny Raquel on that pass from Crosby. Raquel scored a goal from that spot a few games ago, and I'd hate to almost waste that one-time potential that Raquel does have, because he might have the best one-timer on the team, at least among the forwards, and he nearly cashed it in again. So there are a couple of options there, and it wouldn't be the worst thing if Bunting stays on the number 2 power play, because then you have Tomasino down there as well. So it's not like it's a total punt situation for PP2. I would say that much. All right, let's look around the NHL today. I wanted to get to some scores that are of relevance because, well, the Penguins are back in the playoff chase. Boston beats Detroit in overtime. The Red Wings are a couple of points behind the Penguins. This Eastern Conference is just insane right now. Between the Boston Bruins, who have 29 points, and the New York Islanders, who have 25, there are, count them up, counting the Bruins and the Islanders in that group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams between 29 and 25 points. So that's 7 teams within a single win of being in a playoff spot or solidifying a playoff spot. And that would account for 2 playoff spots. So I guess it's like 7 for 2 right now. Or no, it's 7 for 3 because the Rangers are involved in that group too. Man, the Rangers have fallen off. They're down to 27 points and just barely holding on to playoff position as we speak. Like I mentioned, tied with the Flyers. So suddenly a fairly high leverage game as far as December the 6th is concerned, when the Penguins play the Rangers at Madison Square Garden coming up. I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. That'll be an ESPN Plus and Hulu exclusive broadcast. So no local access for those of you who don't have that, unfortunately. But I live out of the market, so I get all those. And, well, you'll get one back on me on Saturday when, this is the dumbest thing in the world, but they always put the Hockey Night in Canada early game on NHL Network, which means I can't watch it on ESPN Plus. What am I paying for? And there's no option to buy NHL Network streaming like there is for MLB Network. Hint, hint. Don't they run out of the same building, I think, in Secaucus, New Jersey, those two? And isn't NHL advanced media run by MLB Advanced Media. I don't really understand why there's not an option there. I feel like that should be coming sometime soon. But either way, two rather important games coming up for a Penguins team that looked dead and not even close to being playoff viable as of the week before Thanksgiving. So a week ago today, in fact, they had sunk to the basement in the Metro Division. They were behind the Blue Jackets and the Islanders, and they still might be behind the Blue Jackets at the end of the night, but they're at least treading water, if not making a slight move up the standings. And that's good for those of us who don't want to watch a death march for 60 games the rest of the way. Let me see if we have any more comments here. Ethan Connolly's got another one. I wonder what our position will be once the game's played evens out. Yeah, that's something else to mention too. The Penguins have played 27 games. That's why we're seeing some of these more extended gaps between games. Only the Bruins have played as many as the Penguins in the Eastern Conference. Actually, them and the Devils, excuse me. The Devils jumped ahead with that series in Prague prior to the rest of the regular season getting underway in early October. So the Devils are at 28 games, the Pens at 27, the Bruins at 27. Yeah, so like the Blue Jackets, they're at 23. So they're in essence ahead of the Penguins. The Flyers and Rangers have played a couple of games less. The Rangers have played 3 games less. So the Rangers aren't as in bad of a position as their raw point total would suggest, but it sure seems like they are, with the memo being leaked out to someone in the media that said that they were putting basically all the veterans on sale. Trouba, Kreider, I'm not sure if they mentioned Zibanejad, but that's really interesting because it's a team that won the President's Trophy last year. And for me, they're not that bad, and they have looked actually really good in some games. The Penguins can attest to how good the Rangers can be when they have everything clicking. But I guess the problem is they have not beaten any good teams this year. Any teams above them in the standings, they have essentially lost to, and it has been ugly in a lot of those games, including last night when the Devils went into MSG and beat them. I think it was 5-1 or 5-2, not even close after 2 periods. So I guess I understand part of it, but for me, I also feel the track record has been there the last several years for New York to give that core some benefit of the doubt. So I don't know what Chris Drury is thinking about at the moment, but it feels desperate, honestly. And well, hopefully the Penguins can take advantage of some of that self-imposed pressure the Rangers are putting on themselves these days. And Rangers fans aren't the most forgiving on top of all that. So it's a New York crowd, right? They're going to be tough, and they have been tough on the Rangers lately, who are 4-6 in their last 10. The Penguins, even with this 4-game win streak, are still just 5-3-2 in their last 10. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but this has been better than the alternative. And tonight, the Penguins come out, score the first couple of goals, and, well, I was going to say just barely hang on. They didn't hang on. They gave it all away. They blew a multi-goal lead for the 9th time, but I believe it's for the 4th time they still win the game. Or still at least get a point out of it. They win the game for the 3rd time that they blew a 2 or more goal lead. This time it was a 3-goal advantage, and the Penguins get 2 points in a game that really, if you go as far as like a retrospective here, if you take it back to this afternoon and you told me the Penguins were going to win in overtime, I'd say that's great against a Panthers team that was hot, and we know what the Panthers' ceiling is, even if they haven't accessed it a ton so far this year. So we will go ahead and take the 2 points and run, as a commenter noted. Okay, our next broadcast is going to be on Friday. I'll be back again. Pens at Rangers, 7:30 start, I believe, on ESPN Plus and Hulu nationwide. It's been great talking to you again on Pens Rapid Reaction. Thank you for joining us. And hey, one more comment here from Brian. Need a couple more solid young dudes and removal of a couple old dudes. And I think Blake Lizotte would factor into one of those slots for young dudes. He is still relatively young, and I want to give him a shout out and a stick tap because he's played well in some games that I haven't done a show after. So count him among the young blood. He's just been injured. Really bad luck with the back-to-back concussions, getting hit by the puck twice for concussions. Mind you, that doesn't happen very often. So Blake Lizotte also adding some speed, some tenacity to the Penguins, and he was a big factor when the Penguins did have some shifts that pinned the Panthers in tonight. All right, we have reached the half-hour mark. That's it for me. Good night. God bless. Talk to you on Friday for more Pens Rapid Reaction right here on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and like and follow on Facebook.